Celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting, here's Gerald Celente with today's trends in the news.
Buongiorno, this is February 9th, 2012, and here are some of today's trends in the news. You know how people hate bureaucrats? I'm one of them. You know, I had some issues with Social Security I had to get straightened out. And now that I'm 65, I want to see about the Medicare thing. Well, they have my birth date wrong. And they won't tell me what the wrong date is, and they're accusing me of not knowing what the right one is. I asked the woman to tell me what date does she have, being that, you know, I had a Social Security card since I'm 16 years old, and something's wrong here. Well, I can't tell you what that is. Boy, did I lay into her. I said, this is why people hate bureaucrats, because it's people like you that are making up this kind of garbage. I said, what section, what paragraph and article are you referring to that you can't tell me the birth date that you have down from me on your records? Of course, she couldn't answer it. So what they do is they just keep their jobs going. And whether it's the bureaucrats over in Washington or in City Hall or these teachers, they're another form of bureaucracy. Everybody's saving their jobs, and it all costs us. Now I have to take a time off, show up with my birth certificate, go down to wherever the Social Security office is, and straighten this out. Can't do it over the phone because we got to screw you so we could keep our jobs. Because if these losers didn't have these government jobs, they couldn't get a job shining shoes. And I'm sick of paying for them. Anyway, on to lighter notes. U.S. plans to cut its staff in half at Iraq embassy. That's right, the one that cost us $1 billion. Well, here are some of the photos of that embassy in Iraq from the toilet paper, a record. Check it out, man. Them cats got themselves a beautiful indoor swimming pool. And there's some woman there with a bathing cap on, drinking her water as she finished her laps. We're paying for this stuff. And you know who you don't have a job? Can't make enough money to make ends meet? Screw you. Why should you? When they are stealing all your money to give to their friends, to build an embassy. You should see the food court they have over here. Huh, put Whole Foods to shame. And we're paying for this. And not only are we paying out of our pockets, we're paying for it with our lives. And speaking about paying for it with our lives, as we see over here, the Greek people, they're paying for it as well. They just passed those wonderful austerity measures. That's right. And you know what the austerity measures include? Cutting wages 20%. And I'm not talking about wages from those disgusting bureaucrats, all those office workers, those arrogant people. No, I'm not talking about them. The austerity package included 20% cuts to base pay for workers in private companies. Could you imagine the government cutting people's wages 20% so that they could pay off the bankers who made bad debts, and those hedge funds and those private equity groups that gambled and lost? You're going to see revolution continuing to spread. They just overthrew the government of Romania. The dictator there stepped down, and a new cat took his place to quell the riots. And it's going to continue to spread because all they're doing is pumping in more money to keep this Ponzi scheme going. And that's why gold prices on the news of this today shot up some $15 an ounce. And that's why the equity markets are going up. It's an easy bet. They're just going to keep funneling money into this thing to keep it going. Meanwhile, devaluating the currency. That's some of the light news. You know those Christmas sales that went up? As we said, here it is, yesterday's February 8th, consumer borrowing increased in December. consumer borrowing rose by $19.3 billion in December after a $20 billion increase in November, while real wages are declining. Figure it out. People are going in deeper into debt, and they're keeping 70% of our GDP in the U.S. is consumer-based, and so the consumer is borrowing to keep their spending habit going. And a lot of that consumer borrowing, guess where it went? It went to autos, but it also went to stupid kids borrowing money because they think that by going to some two-bit college to get a degree in journalism or art history or international finance or business administration is going to get them out of Palookaville and into a real job. And these college con men are bringing the kids in to keep going to college. And that's where the biggest amount has gone up. America's borrowed more on credit cards in December. And they also go on to say about, as well, college debt. Isn't that wonderful? Now, you know how I hate about all these politicians always throwing out the Jesus line? You know, like how Rick Perry, the guy that killed executed 235 people, says he's a follower of Jesus. And all these other phonies that tell him Jesus told him to run for office. Well, now Obama's playing the Jesus card as well. At a prayer meeting last week, Obama said that the rich pay more not only because I actually think it's going to make economic sense, but for me as a Christian, it also coincides with Jesus' teachings that, quote, "For unto whom much is given, much shall be required." Now, I believe the rich should pay more taxes too, especially the filthy rich. The Bain capital, the Bane of Banes. They should pay a lot more. The multi-billionaires, you bet. People making $250,000, $500,000, no. I mean, because anybody knows, you guys, it's a lot of work. If you had kids and, you know, you're not rich. You're living well. But yeah, soak the filthy rich. But throwing out this cheap line, because Jesus also meant that when you have more to give, you give. And you don't have the government taking it from you. But here's where it really rubs me the wrong way. We can all benefit from turning to our Creator, listening to Him, Obama said. Avoiding phony religiosity, he says. This is especially important right now. And I believe in God's command to love thy neighbor as thyself. Except, of course, if you don't like your neighbor. What a hypocrite. Join the crowd with the rest of those political phonies, Obama. You are not a Christian. Don't call yourself a Christian if you are going to use Christ's name and Christ's beliefs in blasphemy. You're another hypocrite, Obama. Check this one out. Obama publicly embraces drone killings. Oh, yeah, right in the spirit of Christ. He loves sending those predator drones in, man, and wiping out kids and other civilians or suspected militants right up Christ's alley. I'll tell you what alley you're up, Obama. You're up with the rest of the BS artists out there. Stop bringing Christ into this baloney that you psychopaths are pushing as religiosity. Here's another little one for you. This is from the Toilet Paper Record. Son of a gun. Right after Obama says he supports drone killings. Oh, yeah, right up Christ's alley, Obama. U.S. drone strikes is said to target rescuers at sites. A report by the London Investigative Journalism that at least 50 civilians had been killed in follow-up strikes after they rushed to help those hit by a drone-fired missile. That's just one. The Bureau counted more than 20 other civilian strikes when they go to funerals. What a bunch of disgusting people. And the prostitutes give them a free ride. Oh, here's another little beauty. Obama the Christian. U.S. resumes drone strike missile attacks in Pakistan. And guess what, folks? There's going to be a drone next to you soon. Here it is. Drones over U.S. get okay by Congress. That's right, folks. A drone in your backyard. Washington Times, Tuesday, February 7th, 2012. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. It's a drone, and it's watching you. That's what privacy advocates fear from a bill Congress passed this week to make it easier for government to fly unmanned spy planes in U.S. airspace. The FAA Reauthorization Act, which President Obama is expected to sign, also orders the Federal Aviation Administration to develop regulations for the testing and licensing of commercial drones by 2015. Can you imagine? Some 30,000 drones they're estimating, the size of hummingbirds flying around everywhere watching you. Don't call Obama a communist or a Marxist or a socialist. This is fascism. And fascism has come to America. Look what they're doing. FBI warns of threat from anti-government extremists. This is Reuters. This is no, underground news report. Anti-government extremists opposed to taxes and regulations pose a growing threat to law enforcement officers in the United States. The FBI warned this past Monday. You imagine that? You hate these regulations and getting wrapped by taxes, and you're an enemy of the state. That's right, it all falls together, doesn't it? The National Defense Authorization Act, and now the FBI out there warning people that you got to watch out because there's an enemy of the state around you. Check it out, man. The extremists may refuse to pay taxes, and they believe the United States went bankrupt by going off the gold standard. Could you imagine that? You are an extremist if you believe the United States from 1913 to now, where the dollar is worth over 95% less than it was back then, and it only lost 5% the previous 100 years, when they began to take us off the gold standard and allowed the Fed to print money. If you believe that, you're a terrorist. And you have no place in the United States. And I'm going to report you. Or you're going to report me. This is Gerald Celente, and that's some of today's trends in the news.